In this video, we'll go over 10
just give me
weapons
1
that are
second.
weird,
Let me go ahead and
the
try to
fact
load
that they
back in
did
again,
something
okay?
Unique,
135.
or were uniquely bad. And at number 10, we have the
Okay.
Dark Iron Pulverizer. This
Doesn't it
is a
stun
two-handed
for 8
mace
seconds?
that has an amazing effect, where it has a random chance on hit to stun the target for 8 seconds.
Should I use that? Like, imagine me stunning somebody for 8 fucking seconds. Like, just like one fucking boom. Just stunned forever. I don't know. I'd love to see that, okay? We'll watch the Hobbs video after this one, okay, guys?
That
Assuming
is
servers
longer
are
than
still
any
not up.
other stun that a player character can use in-game. But from vanilla WoW anyway, there were some expansions in which a rogue could get a 10-second kidney shot stun. But anyway,
That's
that
so
would have made this
stupid.
weapon really amazing.
That's so
if
stupid.
it wasn't for the fact that it never procced.
Yeah.
Well, never isn't the correct term for it. It's more like you just had an incredibly low chance to proc, where if you attack something continuously for 5 minutes, you might see it proc one time.
Jesus
it procced
Christ.
so infrequently that it was basically useless and just kind of a gimmick weapon. But oh boy, if this thing did proc,
Oh my
then you
God,
could totally
dude.
swap to a better weapon and make full use of that 8-second stun to maybe kill
An
something.
8-second
And
cast.
at number 9, we have Finkel's
Jesus
Skinner.
Christ.
This was a dagger weapon that could be used as a skinny knife, and was the most sought after skinny knife in the game, because
We need
it
to
gave
get
you a
this for one
plus
of our
10 to your
skinners.
skinning level, which
Ninja,
when
thank you
combined
for
with the
10
plus
gifted
5
community subs.
skinning
Thank you,
enchant,
Ninja.
allowed players to skin
Thank you
boss
very
level
much.
mobs. So in order to skin Onyxia, you needed the skinning
We've already
dagger
seen this?
and the plus 5 enchant
let
in
me
order
see if
to
it's my
successfully
my
accomplish
react
that
thing.
task, which was needed
have
in
not seen
order
it.
to get the scales from Onyxia, which were then used to create the cloak, which was needed in order to complete Blackwing Lair. Later on in Classic WoW, they added a sword item called the Zulin Slicer,
Yep.
which was a drop
Zulin?
from ZG, which gave the same
Zulin?
effect as Finkel's Skinner, except on a sword item.
Yep.
So classes who couldn't use daggers could use this sword instead, and be able to actually skin boss level mobs.
Yep.
So despite not being a max level dagger, it was a very sought after dagger for its unique effect. Number 8, the Ravager. This was a two-handed weapon drop from the Scarlet Monastery, with a special, unique, weird effect that had a chance on hit to force your character into basically a blade storm for
man.
9 seconds. Your character would spin
Man,
around and just
dude,
do
I
damage
love
to
this
everything
weapon.
within its AoE. Except, unlike
This
Blade
is
Storm,
really it, man.
you couldn't move during this weapon's proc. So
Holy
you were just
shit.
stuck spinning around in a circle, hoping things in it wouldn't move away from you,
That's right.
which was entirely possible in PvE situations.
Spinning boy.
Now, the damage this ability did was okay for its level.
It was
and procced a lot
insane.
of good class abilities.
What do you mean it was
But most people
insane?
grabbed the axe because of how cool the ability looked, and not really because of its usefulness.
Yeah, there is that too.
As people would use this weapon at max level just to have their character spin around.
Yeah.
They removed the ability to get this weapon and miss, so the only way to acquire this weapon again would be to wait for the classic WoW servers. And at number 7, we have a unique item called Andonius, Reaper of Souls.
Oh.
This is a one-handed
This is for the
sword
ATS thing.
legendary weapon that only existed for 10 minutes.
Yep.
But it had really good stats for those 10 minutes and did a crap ton of damage. And I guess that's kind of the whole point of the limited real-time duration. The item was used during a quest chain for the Atiesh staff, where you'd fight a demon called Atiesh, who is dual-wielding the sword, and drops one of them in the middle of the fight, which
If
you
you
can pick
disarm
up in
him.
order to defeat him with it.
I think that you have to disarm him to get him to drop the sword. I don't remember that. It's been quite a while. But I think that you used to have to disarm him. Yeah, 90 DPS. So I want you guys to just to see that weapon right there. This weapon, melee and range attack, this weapon is better than any weapon, even in Burning Crusade. It was ridiculously fucking powerful.
Sword was unique for being one of only 2 conjured weapons in Vanilla WoW. The second being the Hammer of Expertise, of course, which lasted 1 hour instead of 10 minutes. And at number 6, we have the Death Blow. This is a
fuck is
two-handed
this?
sword that has a chance on hit effect to deliver a fatal wound
Who
for a
cares?
set amount of damage.
Who
Now,
cares?
despite the fact that this weapon says it deals a fatal wound, what it really means is that it just does some extra damage.
Yeah.
As in, this fatal wound doesn't automatically kill your target.
No.
It also doesn't mean that it only activates when the target is low on health or something. To, you know, do a fatal wound, it's just a chance on hit to proc some extra damage. Just like other weapons.
It's more like a fake wound. Ooh, or fatal. Is fatal a word? That sounds like fecal. No, never mind.
state the exact same thing, like the Jeklik Crusher.
Well, I guess it
which
does.
is a
No, that
chance
does
on
make sense because the proc is shitty.
hit to wound the target, producing bonus damage. Fatal Wound just seems like a flavorful way to word the same thing.
Yeah.
And there are 4 of the weapons of Vanilla WoW that also state they deal their bonus damage as a Fatal Wound. There's
Except for
also
it's
items
not.
like the Halbert of Smiting. Unlike the Death Blow, this weapon has a chance on hit to literally decapitate the target and kill them instantly.
If only
Oh,
it
wait,
actually did
does it
that.
actually do that?
No.
It just does bonus damage instead? Alright, it's just another ability with
That'd be a really good. That'd be a really good mechanic, you know. Like you just have like this weapon, it accidentally procs and just cuts the head off. Not a big deal, dude. You've watched this before? No, I haven't.
a very flavorful way of saying that it does some extra bonus damage.
Yep.
I don't think Blizzard knows what decapitate means. Well, to be fair, this weapon did have another distinction, where its bonus damage proc could proc its bonus damage proc, kind of like how a Shaman's Wind Fury proc could proc Wind Fury. So it did have a chance to do some really good damage, but I don't think that was intended since it was hotfixed later on,
Yep.
and just turned into a normal proc weapon.
That's a really
One
big
that
proc. That does a
decapitated the
fuckload
target
of
and killed
damage,
them
man.
instantly, of course. And at number 5, we have the Hydro Cane. This staff, which is a drop from a boss
have
of
this one.
Nomergon, gave a little bit of frost resistance, which is okay, I guess. But it also
amazing.
allowed the user to just passively breathe underwater.
Yep.
And since this was a weapon, you could swap it in if you were underwater and finding
I must have
things
kept this for 10
to allow
years.
your breath meter to reset, and then
Oh,
switch
I
back
kept
to
it
an
until I got
actual
the
good
ring.
weapon later on.
Yeah.
All while still being in combat. And because this item is a weapon specifically, that actually made it really useful, as you could swap it in and out during combat.
That's right.
So it was one of the few weapons that people could actually carry around in their bags to have in some of those just-in-case moments. You know, moments where you have to randomly be underwater for a quest for long periods of time. Moments like this almost never happened, but if they did, you'd be happy you carried around a Hydro Cane in your bags.
Yeah, I was. I'd keep this around with me for years, and I never used it. Like, there was like maybe 2 times that I ever used it, and that was it.
And at number 4, we have the Dazzling Longsword. This sword has an effect where, when you hit a target, you have a chance to decrease their armor by about 100 for 30 seconds. So, armor pen, before that was a stat put in the game. But also, while this armor pen effect was applied, the target cannot stealth or turn invisible. So this sword item basically applied fairy fire to your target, which is really good in PvP against stealthy classes. The unfortunate thing about the sword was that it was a main hand weapon in vanilla. So you couldn't just equip it into your offhand in order to try to fish for procs on classes which could dual wield it. And
We tried using this. Asmongold had this during the beta, but we never really had a way to actually make it usefully. Well, you guys know what I meant to say.
it was also a low
Actually
level
useful.
epic item, which dropped from random mobs of around level 40. So it was hard to obtain.
I have
There
verbal
was another
dyslexia,
low-level
okay?
weapon, which was a little easier to get, called the Phantom Blade,
Okay.
with a similar effect, except it lasted
This is for
20
blacksmithing.
seconds
You were
instead
able
of
to make
30,
this.
and was also a main
This is
hand
really,
weapon.
really good.
Late in the Burning Crusade, Blizzard changed both of these weapons to just be one-handed instead of main-handed,
Try to load back in, guys.
which means they could be equipped in the offhand slots, in order to use its proc more effectively. Although by then, their damage would have been way too low to really mean anything in the Burning Crusade. Although these two weapons seem like they would be really good twink weapons for the 30 and 40s brackets. And at number 3, we have Typhoon. This is a two-handed sword,
from
which gives you an
Azergos.
increased 1% chance to parry, which is a really good weapon for Death Knights, who wouldn't be
Classic.
added to the game until 2 expansions later.
Yeah.
In Vanilla WoW,
Yeah.
tanks included warriors, and that concludes the list of classes which could tank.
That's right.
And warrior tanks always equipped a
Hear that? You hear that, boys? That's it. No paladins, no druids, no fucking shamans.
one-handed weapon alongside a shield, not two-handed weapons. And parry is definitely a tanking stat, so not very useful for classes
Smitty,
who
log
could use
on.
this as damage dealers, as they would love that stat to be something that increased their damage instead. But I guess cases could be made for PvP usages, whatever. There was also another low-level sword item called the Guardian Blade, which was a two-handed weapon that gave you bonus armor and defense stat. 2 tank exclusive stats that classes that can use two-handed weapons don't really care about.
I feel like back then, Blizzard, they didn't really know. they didn't really know what they were doing. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like they just didn't really know what they were doing. They were just kind of figuring things out. Slowbo, are you logging back on, Slowbo? I'll give Slowbo a few minutes, okay? And uh-oh, are we lagging again? I'm trying to invite Smitty. Oh shit, Wooly, Fear Ward, can you give me a lead? Fear, can you give me a lead real quick and we'll get this done?
But I guess cases can be made for classes using them to level up with, where having a little bit more defensive stats might matter. In case you're wondering, no, druids could not use these weapons. Druids cannot use swords.
They're
so
stupid.
Even the
That's
class
why
who
they
only
can't use
cares
swords.
about the stats on the weapon couldn't make use of the defensive stats on these weapons. Plus, bears can't parry attacks anyway. And at number 2, we have Sulthraze, the Lasher.
Oh, jeez.
This was a
Sulthraze is a waste of time. You remember how many fucking times I tried to go in this? Like, I don't, like, how many fucking times did I do this stupid ass bullshit? It took me, like, probably like 50 times I went in here, and I still couldn't get this shit done, man. I was so fucking mad. Is Slobo logging back on? If Slobo isn't on, we need, like, another mage or something. We'll find out what else we can get after that. We have one slot open, assuming that Roy's gonna be able to zone in.
two-handed sword with a proc chance to debuff a target as well as put a dot on them for 15 seconds. Although it's not on this list for that proc, it's actually here because in order to obtain this weapon, you had to combine 2 other weapons together,
This is so fucking
which
annoying,
dropped from
dude.
2 different bosses.
So fucking
far as I
annoying.
know, I think this is the only weapon in the game which required you to combine 2 weapons together in order to make it, which wasn't part of a quest or profession. So in order to make this weapon, you have to head over to Zul'Farrak and kill 2 bosses who would each drop a weapon called Jangthraze, the Protector, and Sangthraze, the Deflector. Jangthraze had an on-use effect that would combine it with a
That's the one I
Sangthraze from
didn't
your
get.
inventory in order to create Sulthraze. So unlike other created weapons, you didn't make the weapon through a profession. You literally just combined 2 items from your inventory to create a new one.
This weapon, by the way, Sulthraze, is probably one of the biggest pieces of shit weapons that Blizzard has ever made. Like, it's probably, like, literally the biggest piece of shit weapon that Blizzard has ever done. Like, I really cannot think of a more piece of shit weapon than this. Like, it is the dumbest, most fucking pathetic, awful, garbage weapon they've ever thought of.
Which is unique in of itself, and isn't really something, to my knowledge, that's been done since. Of course, there were some weapons which you can click on them in order to transform them into other weapons, but this isn't that, as it's literally combining 2 weapons to create a brand new one. And at number 1, we have the Manual Crowd Pummeler. This was a 2-handed mace weapon with a really good on-use effect, which would increase your attack speed by 50%.
This is so stupid. Like, you'd have to farm these fucking things out if you really want to do top-end damage.
30 seconds. But with the downside that you could only use this effect 3 times total. And then you could never use this effect again.
You have to farm out more of them afterwards.
Game with limited charges on its ability. That once you used all 3 charges, you just straight up could not use its ability anymore. And it was turned into a normal stat stick. That being said, it dropped off a low-level boss in Nomergon, so if you wanted extra charges as a max-level character, you could just go in there and farm it to have multiple copies of the weapon. And this is exactly what feral druids would do. Because you see, on certain illegal servers, people have been playing older versions of WoW for many years, and have metagamed everything there is to know about those old versions of WoW. And it's through these less than legal servers that people found out that feral druids could actually pull competitive DPS, as long as they just farmed out a crap ton of manual crowd pummelers. And no joke.
Imagine having to be, imagine trying to be competitive in a raid, but you have to spend all day farming Nomergon. That's all you have to do. That's so fucking sad, man. It really is. How fucking sad is that?
If you look up how to perform the best DPS for feral druids in vanilla WoW, they will include this weapon as part of the normal rotation.
How scuffed.
Despite the fact that you can only use the effect 3 times before the weapon is useless. And why does this work on Feral Druids and not other melee classes? Well, that's because Feral Druids don't care about the weapon's damage.
That's right.
Weapons to them were only stat sticks, as a weapon damage didn't increase their melee attack damage. So, using the Crowd Pummeler to get a 50% increased attack speed for 30 seconds, which is ridiculous, I might add, was such a great effect that it let them forego the need of having actual good stats on the weapon. Whereas
Or
other
being
melee
good players.
classes would be completely neutered if they had to use this weapon just for a 50% attack speed proc.
Yeah.
Because if you swap this weapon to another one, the effect would end immediately. So only Feral Druids could take advantage of this effect's unique ability at max level. Of course, today, you can still get this weapon, they just removed the charge system in Burning Crusade, and gave it a more reasonable haste proc. This weapon was only available and usable in this way in vanilla WoW, basically. Alright, and that's it for the list. Do you know of any other weird or unique weapons that existed in vanilla WoW that I may have missed? If so, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments, as well as ideas for future videos just like this one.